This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com, and putting on her jacket right now is the beautiful Christi Jaynes from SWE Fury. She's going to be on the big event December 12th, taking on Vert Vixen, who I interviewed last week here on the Hannibal TV. She's also recently competed for Impact, AEW. She's been all over the place, so we'll get into it. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. How are you doing?
Great. I see you're wearing a jacket, though. Is it cold where you are?
I am. It's like 33 degrees in Utah. So I'm at my parents' house right now. They live in Utah and it's pretty chilly outside. And I didn't realize how cold I was until I actually sat down and rested because I just got done working out. So I was like, oh yeah, it is cold. So
Utah, which is the home of the monolith that's had all the publicity lately. Have you been following that?
no, I don't even know what that is. What is that?
Okay, it's been on the news. They found like this metal monolith, I guess it's called. It was like 12 feet high. People were saying they thought it might be aliens that put it there. It was out in the desert. It's been there, I guess, since 2016, but apparently after further research, it appears that like an artist put it there and was just trying to get attention. But this made like the New York Times, this made national news in Canada, all over the world.
Wow. We have nothing better to talk about than making up stories of what something could be. Sounds great.
Yeah. People were originally saying they thought like aliens planted this there as a way of contacting us, but no.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Legit crazy.
If you search it, I can't believe you haven't heard about it being in Utah. Maybe it's just known everywhere but Utah.
I also don't listen, I don't watch a lot of news channels and stuff like that. Not because I don't want to know what's going on in the world, just mostly because everything that's going on in the world has happened when I was a child. And it's just like, I feel like every news story is just a repetition of an old story that happened in the past. And they're just trying to revamp it. So I'm like, I watch wrestling. I'm like, that's about as much of drama as I can take right now.
Well, that's good. Well, there is some wrestling news today, as one of the fans here says, R.I.P. Patterson. Did you ever run into him? I know you're fairly young in the business, but maybe you've had a WWE tryout or something where you may have run into him.
I have had a WWE tryout. I am better with people's faces. So if you guys want to show me a picture, I'll be like, oh yeah, I know who he is. And I probably have a million of crazy stories to tell you guys. Here, I'm going to look it up right now. But yeah, I am also a real person. I don't live on social media. So I'm always late to the party, as people like to say, hey Josh, how you doing? But yeah, when Animal died, I didn't find out till 5 o'clock at night, and everyone knew in the morning. And I was like probably the last person to know, which was so weird because I had just had an interaction with him a couple days ago. So also, like I said, I'm not good with people's names, which is terrible in this business, right?
He used to be like, I know you're fairly young, but he used to be like Vince McMahon's right-hand man, but he'd been having health issues. He was 79. It's not like it was a surprise. But Animal, he was a good friend of mine, actually. He worked for our company up here in Canada, Great North Wrestling. I did a couple interviews with him. What was your experience like? Because I know he appeared for SWE Fury. That may have been his last appearance, actually.
So I ran into him a few different times, right? And when I met him, I'm very loud. I don't I'm very not the norm of what most wrestling people expect wrestlers to be like. They're like, oh, you need to be like quiet and just kind of stay in your own place and stuff. I'm a very much people person, and I treat everyone like they're my best friends and like I've known you guys forever, right? Even though I just met you, that's how I am. So I'm I'm very like loud. I ask a lot of questions because I want to understand things fully. So when I first met him, I just treated him like anyone else, and it was really weird because I was like, oh man, this he hates me. And I remember telling James Beard, I remember telling him like, I'm going to make him love me, like absolutely. And then I met him a few other times, right? And he always knew who I was. He was always like, oh, hi, Christy, how are you? And I was always like, And then the last couple of times I saw him, we had an ongoing joke, which was, I'll wear your shoulder pads and you can wear my feathers. And we'll be like this intergender tag team. And I'll come out all happy and spunky and doing my dance in your shoulder pads. And you come out wearing my feathers. And he would never smile or anything. So I was like, yeah, I don't think he likes that joke. And everyone's like, no, it's a great joke. He loves it. And then the last time I physically saw him, he was like, somebody brought up that joke again, and he goes, well, I do look good in yellow. And I was like, I knew it. I knew you loved it. I knew you liked me. He's like, yeah, it'll be the best. I'll just come out like looking all pissed off and you could just be all happy. I'm like, we're doing this. And we should have taken a picture together, like with it. Cause we always talked. He always gave me advice. He always would encourage me to do better, to do myself, or, he'd like give me constructive criticism, which a lot of people don't understand the difference between criticism and constructive criticism. But that was my interaction with him. And it was crazy because when I did find out that he passed away, like my first response was, is this the same person that I just talked to? Like, this is the exact same guy. We're talking about the same person, right? And everyone, like, I think in the group chat was kind of taken back by what I said. I was just like, I don't stay on social media all the time. I have my own life. I go to school, I have my Twitch channel. I work out, I train a lot. Like, I do stuff outside of social media. I'm not on my phone all the time. And it was funny because I get a message from Jason Jarrett, and he's like, that is the most honest answer. Thank you so much. They're Alienware. He's like, that is the best answer you could have given to everyone, that you're not on social media and you're a real person. Animal would have appreciated that because he was very honest, and he always appreciated how honest you were and how much you were just okay with being yourself. And I was like, wait, what? He never said any of this to me. And he's like, oh yeah, every meeting we ever had, he would say, that you have that it factor, and that you were meant to do this, and that you're really good. And I was like, he never said any of this to me. And then James also told me that he's like, he was your biggest supporter in wrestling. I'm like, no one tells me this stuff. So that was my interaction with Animal, was that. And it's funny because like now when I talk to people that knew him and knows me, and they tell me always the same thing. They're like, oh yeah, he was like one of your biggest supporters. Like, he had your back in and out. And I was like, what? Like, and then it, like that whole week I just cried. So it was really, really sad. And then when SWE did that whole, thing for Joe, like I cried the whole time too. So that was fun. But yeah, that was my interaction with Joe. He was just very real, and he didn't care if people agreed with him or not. He would tell you what it was and how it was. And it was like, okay, you either take it and swallow it, or you use it and better yourself. And I love that. I love the no bullshit meter. And I love how like there's a difference between people that say that they have like, you know, they're just very brutally honest, but they're really not, you know? But he was just honest. And that's how he was. He was him in and out, like in wrestling and out of wrestling. That was him.
Very nice nails, by the way. And yeah, no, that's quite an honor that that Animal put you over like that, because he had a very good eye for talent. Fart Doctor has a question for you. Of course, you're from Brazil. What's the best Brazilian steakhouse?
I am very biased because my godfather owns a steakhouse. It's called Rodizio Grill. It was actually one of the first steakhouses in the United States. They used to be all over the place, and then COVID happened, and then you know, it like he had to close down a lot of his steakhouses because of COVID, pretty much. But it's called Rodizio Grill, so I'm a little biased because it is a lot of my grandmother's recipes that are there. So
sounds tasty. Jefferson wants to know, I don't know if you follow MMA, but there's a lot of great Brazilian fighters. He wants to know, who do you think is the best Brazilian MMA fighter?
I don't really follow MMA. Sorry, I probably should, but I don't. Something about like purposely beating somebody up, I don't know. Doesn't do it for me.
You're too much of a sweetheart. There's some brutal. There's MMA in Brazil that's even more brutal than the MMA over here too, isn't there? There's like bare knuckle where they allow groin shots and all this crazy stuff.
I mean, there's that in Japan too. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. Daniel Smith wants to know how you're doing and what was it like working with AEW. He also says it's his birthday on Sunday.
Well, a happy birthday, Daniel. And it was fun. It was okay. It was real. It's like any big business, you know, there's a lot of politics that go on behind the scenes. There's a lot of there's agents. Everyone has an agent. So like your matches are highly agented. So there's that. It's TV. So why wouldn't it be? It's entertainment. It's a production. It's grandiose, you know? But it was fun. Other than that, it was a good time. A lot of my friends are there, like lucha friends are there. It's interesting because like all of my guy friends are at AEW, but all of my girlfriends are at NXT WWE. So it's like split in the middle. That's why people always are like, well, where do you want to go? Do you want to go WWE or you want to go to AEW? And I'm like, I want to go wherever they want me and they're going to help my career grow. That's where I want to go. I want to go somewhere where they want me, you know?
Did they contact you, or was it a situation where you sent them videos and then they got back to you?
No, they contacted me. So I was wrestling in San Antonio for RCW hit me up, and they were they had like a show they were doing. It was a benefit show and it was a concert, and they got asked to put on a wrestling show there. And I was like, they're like, you know, it doesn't pay, like, because it is a benefit show, there's not a whole lot of money going into it. And he was naming me some of the bands that were going to be there, and one of them was Fozzy. And everyone who knows anything about wrestling knows that the lead singer of Fozzy is Chris Jericho. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, opportunity knocked. Okay, I'll go do it for free. That's what I told him. I'll do it for free. Don't worry about it. Don't have to pay for gas, nothing. I'm going to go do it for free. It's an opportunity. If Chris Jericho sees me, if he likes me, there is potential to maybe go to WWE or AEW. Like, it was either or, right? So I'm like, it's an opportunity. It's like a crap shot. I'm going to lose a ton of money. But if it pays off, it'll pay off in folds. So I did it. I drove down there. I got my own place and I went and wrestled. I wrestled this girl that was absolutely green. Like, I think I was her first match. And I was like, great. I need, there are a few things I need to do in this match. I need to get myself over, need to get her over, and I need to socialize with the crowd, right? Pretty much. I'm like, there's the three things I got to hit in this match. That's all I cared about. Didn't care about moves, didn't care about anything. I'm like, this is what I need, because overall, the bigger stage is entertainment, right? They can teach anyone how to wrestle, but they can't teach people how to connect with another human being. You either can do it or you can't. Like, unfortunately, that's just how it goes in life. So I went out there, we did our match, right? I was like, my entrance has to be spot on. And I love my entrance. It's kind of like a mix of, the whole Ric Flair, Chris Jericho. Like, it's that like mix of energy, right? The crowd gets involved. There's this whole energy in the room about it. So I told them, I'm like, I have to have my full entrance. Like, you can't cut my entrance at all. I don't care if you cut like half of the match or whatever, but you can't cut the entrance. Like, my entrance, I've got to have it all. And they were like, fine. So I went there, did my entrance, did our match. I didn't think that he would see the whole match, but I hoped while he was doing his meet and greet that maybe I could get the crowd hyped up enough that him or somebody else out there that knows him would be like, hey, what's the commotion over there? What's going on over there? And somebody would see it and they'd be like, oh, you guys should go get Chris. Maybe he could see this, right? So I never thought that he would personally see it. So I did it. I did the match. The crowd was involved. It was great. And then I came back out, went to the back. And then the band started playing. And I remember the people I was with, I was like, hey, let's go to the very front. Because I was like, okay, if he did see me, then the next step is to get in front of him again so he doesn't forget who I am. Right? I had this whole plan, man. I'm all about taking opportunities and capitalizing on them. So then everyone was like, no, we don't want to go up there. We don't want to like socialize with, these people. And I'm like, with these people, these are your fans. These people are going to pay your bills. What are you talking about? Right? I'm like, whatever. So I went up there and before I went down there, I memorized do you see how I work here? I memorized a lot. Like, I did my homework, man. I memorized a lot of their songs. I'm like, oh, they probably won't play this because this wasn't in like their top 5. You know that when you go and watch like concerts, what they're probably going to play and what they're not going to play. But I still went through and I like memorized some of the lyrics off of it. And then everyone knows Judas, right? That's his entrance song. So like I didn't have to do that one. So then I go in there and I'm like pushing my way to the front and I am just like rocking out, singing all the songs, hanging out. And I know he wasn't pointing at me because the lights are so bright on you when you're on stage. Everyone knows this as a performer. It's like a sea of people. You can't pick out one face to another, right? But he pointed right at me and I was like, and this is the only reason why I know he was pointing at me is because somebody from his team came up to me and gave me a Fozzie hat. I still have that Fozzie hat. It's actually in my closet. So he gave me a Fozzie hat and I was like, yes, okay, like down, whatever. Great night overall. It was amazing. I was helping load up the ring. I always help load up rings unless I have to leave immediately with a carpool. But for the most part, I stay and help load up the ring. So I'm loading up the ring and I get a text message from somebody claiming to be Jericho. And it says, hey, saw your match. I thought you're really great in the ring. And I wrote, LOL, thanks for the catfish. If this is really you, you'll come out over by the ring. Put my phone down, continue to load up the ring, and here comes Chris Jericho. My heart, and my stomach became one. It was like, what is going on? It was crazy, like absolutely nuts. And Jericho walks like a badass. Like he has this whole aura about him. Like he's the GOAT. And so he comes walking out and he's like, "Hey, Christi, I'm like, yeah, I know who you are." And like inside I'm dying and screaming like a little 12-year-old child. I'm like, "Ah!" Right? But outside I'm like, "Oh yeah, hey, how are you? Yeah, cool, nice to meet you. Oh yeah, whatever, right? Oh, thank you." And he's like, "Yeah, like, I saw your entrance. That was like amazing, like so great." He's like, "I love your vibe out there, and you seem like really cool too." And he's like, "Your wrist lock is amazing. It's one of the best I've seen in the industry." I'm like, hold on. Then I got insulted. I'm a real person. And I go, "The wrist lock? Really? I did a moonsault. I did my little Owen Hart sit down booty bump backflip. But you're going to compliment me on a wrist lock?" I'm like, right? And he was just like, "No, it was great. Like the match flowed. It was awesome." He's like, "And then you came out and you were like hanging out. You were one of the only wrestlers out there, like hanging out with the fans and singing." And I was like, "Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, like, yes." So that was great. And then a month later, I got an email from AEW asking me, they were going to be at the HEB Event Center in Cedar Park, Texas, better known as Austin, Texas. And they asked me if I wanted to come out and be a part of it. And they messaged me the night before and said, "Hey, you need to be at training at 10 o'clock in the morning." And I was like, "Absolutely." So I go, I get dressed in, because you always go professional dressed and then you change into whatever they tell you to. So then I changed and I'm training with them, and Dustin Rhodes is training us. And again, I am just like, and I did everything wrong in training, everything. And then they go, "Oh yeah, you're having a match with Big Swole tonight." And I was like, oh my gosh. And you could tell Dustin had zero faith in me because I was horrible at training because I was so nervous. There were all like, these are legends hanging out at AEW, right? So I was so, I did terrible. Like everything I did was terrible. Even my 3/4 rolls were terrible. Like everything I did was horrible. So it was bad. And you could tell, like, he's like, "So you're going to have a match with her." He's like, "Look, relax, whatever." And I was pretty nervous because I could tell they had no faith in me. I wouldn't have faith in me either if I would have seen somebody training like I trained that day. Like zero faith in that person, So then my music hits, and I remember looking at the person giving me the cue to walk out, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I forgot everything." The look of panic on his face, and then my music hit, and I go into this thing which I call like Christi Jaynes mode, and it's over. Like it's done, right? So I did my entrance, I went out there, did everything I had to do, I get into the back, and everyone is like, "That was great." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." I'm like, "I would really love some critique." And they're like, No, that was great." Dustin Rhodes goes, "Why didn't you do that in training?" Like, I don't know. I was so nervous. It's just how I operate. I'm really bad at training. But I'm really good at the performance. Like the performance aspect of it, I'm really, really good. And I think over the years, I've gotten better at thinking on my toes, right? Like before, girls used to like purposely hurt me in the ring, and I used to be so nice, and I'd just be like, whatever, and I'd leave all broken my matches, and I would never like do anything, like no repercussions. The girls would never get repercussions, right? And like the promoters would always be like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, thanks, whatever." And now it's like, "Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's how it's gonna be." Now it's like I protect myself more And I don't take a lot of crap from people anymore. And I also feel like now that I have those years in the business, people hurt me a lot less or purposely hurt me a lot less. So anyway, sorry, that was a really long story, right?
Yeah, long but good. And when you're young too in the business, sometimes you don't know that the people are purposely hurting you, because that happened to me too. Like, you don't necessarily know that that's not what wrestling is like. So they take advantage of you, I find.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's always funny because then they always like how people get away with it. I feel like is they blame the green people, right? The young wrestlers. They're like, "Oh, it was their fault," and it's like, "Bitch, the fuck it was!" Like, excuse my language, but literally, that's how it goes.
So what was the feedback? You got positive feedback. You think they're going to bring you back again, and maybe one day something will come out of it?
Maybe, right? That's the thing. Like with wrestling, you always have to hope. You have to have hope that there is going to be something more. Because if you don't have that hope, then why, why why do you wrestle for a price? Like why do you put a price, Like why not just go do it for free or whatever, Like so yeah, I do have hope. They did call me back. They didn't give me any negative feedback, and I've always been like, are they just being super nice, or I feel like there needs to be some negative critique here. So they never gave me negative feedback. They invited me to go out to dinner with them that night, so I went out with them, and Tony Khan and Cody Rhodes was like, you need to come out for Double or Nothing. Mind you, this is pre-COVID and this is all happening in Vegas. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, absolutely, right. And he's like, yeah, just keep emailing so and so, and we'll get you out there. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I told him, I'm like, yeah, I just don't want to feel like I'm pestering him. I'm like, you know how it is when like promoters get a million emails from the same person. I feel like a little pesterish. And he's like, you're a professional wrestler. We are meant to pester. That's what you do as a wrestler. You pester these promoters. Like it's not that you want that opportunity. And he's like, so definitely. And then COVID happened. And then they reached out to me, right? I reached out to them a few times, and then I was like, oh man, COVID, whatever. And they wrote back to me and said, yeah, we're not quite sure what we're doing with that. And then I got an email back from them, and they said, hey, we want you to come out to Florida, but we need you out here for 14 days. And I was like, absolutely cool. So I went out there. Sheeta won the belt from Nyla Rose on the Double or Nothing. And then the next day, they tell me, hey, we want you to wrestle Sheeta. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Hello, Jofo in the ring. Thank you so much. So then I have this match with Sheeta, and I'm a prepper. I prepare for everything. I didn't know what I was going to be doing out there. I didn't know if I was going to get a match. So I brought 3 sets of gear out. I brought my Brazilian gear, the green one with the stars all over it, right? I brought that one. I brought my yellow one. And then I brought this gear I had made a long time ago in case I was ever going to be on a pay-per-view, right? I have gear for that. I have a whole closet full of gear that no one has ever seen. Like I have WrestleMania gear. If anyone ever calls me out of the blue and is like, hey, we want you on WrestleMania, I have that gear. It's sitting in my closet. I'm prepped. I'm prepared for any situation, right? And then I brought like a bunch of like party dresses because I was like, I don't know if they want me to do like a segment where I'm in the background, and then I brought like jeans and other stuff, like just an array of stuff because I just want to be prepared. So then they're like, you're going to have this match. So I pull out this gear. I pull out my feathers. Like, I got it. I know what I'm doing. We go out there and, Kenny's like, I want you to do your stuff. Like this isn't going to be, a squash match. This is going to be a legit match. And I was like, oh shit, okay. Like they actually gave me um they gave me an opportunity to showcase. And it was great. Um and then JR, he is my best friend. He doesn't know this, but he is my best friend. He's my mom's best friend too. The night before, I got an email from him asking me like all these questions, a bunch of questions, right? And so I answered them like super truthfully also, and I sent it to him. I didn't know what they were for. I didn't know, like, they weren't just the basic questions of where are you from, how much you weigh, what do you want to be, what do you want your entrance to be like. It wasn't anything like that. It was like, um, where were you born? Who are the people in wrestling that you look up to? Who got you to AEW? Like, give us names of people you trained with. Like and that's the other thing, right? When they were asking me who I trained with, I told them everyone I trained with, and they're like, oh, the only person's name we can use is Ray Phoenix. So that's why they're like, oh, she was trained by Ray Phoenix. Like but that's the thing. Yes. Did I train with Phoenix? I did train with Phoenix. But my first trainer was like George De La Isa from Pflugerville, Texas. He's Mr. Mexico too. He's the same guy that trained Ricky Starks. Like they couldn't say, like, I trained with Daga the wrestler, I trained with Latigo, a lot of different wrestlers, and they couldn't use their names. They could only use Phoenix's name for whatever purposes, right? But yeah, they brought me back to do that. And then when I got done with that match, I went into the back, and Kenny Omega sat down next to me, and he was like, I was over the moon with your match. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, well, can I get like some, criticism, like some critiques? Like, what should I work on? This and that, that and this. And he was just like, nothing. You're actually really good. You just need to wrestle competent women. I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you. Like, so yeah, he was like, I've seen some of your other footage, and it's like, you can tell what's going on. And I was like, oh, thanks. And he was just like, you're really good. He's like, you know who you are, you know what your character is, and you connect with the people, you have that it factor. And that's what I heard most from everyone at AEW, is that you have that it factor. And then the next day, and then they all went on break, and then we did the dark tapings, and they put me in a match with Kylan King, and I got a win, and it was fantastic. So now it's just like a waiting game. You just sit back and you wait, and you see what or who is going to offer, if anyone is going to offer anything. So
I've heard too that AEW doesn't want to release anyone during the pandemic, and that will actually, when they're able to release people, that will open up spots, because I've heard through the grapevine that that's a bit of an issue right now there.
they've released a lot of female wrestlers, actually.
Oh, really? So maybe Tony Khan's
Yeah.
working people.
No, they released a lot. They released Bae Priestley, right? Will Ospreay's girlfriend. They released a few of their UK girls, like I think 3 of them. So yeah, they've released people, but they've also hired people. So yeah.
Interesting, because it was in the news the other day that they only release like people that were controversial. So that's interesting to know. Matt wants to know more about your WWE tryout. Was it like a match, or was it one of those things where they brought you to Orlando for a few days to look at you?
So they brought me to Orlando. Originally, I was supposed to have a tryout with like all those girls that got signed right after, right? Lacey Lane, I think her name now is Kaden. Shotzi, like a few of the other girls, right? That all got signed. I was supposed to be at that tryout, but then I couldn't go because I got injured. I had to have knee surgery. So I wasn't there. And then they brought me back a year later and I had my tryout. And the majority of the people there were not wrestlers. They were either athletes or in TV already. And my match was against, I can't remember her name, but she used to be like a physique bodybuilder. And she had just started training. She was like 3 or 4 months in, and she was deaf. Like she couldn't hear. And the match was what it was. It was very difficult because it was really hard to communicate with her. And then our agent, they didn't really give us an agent for the match. She had been training with D'Lo Brown. And so she called him the night before and we got on the phone call. And so he was kind of like our agent for the match. But when you can't communicate with somebody in the ring and they aren't very well versed in wrestling language, things break down quickly. Let's just say that. And yeah, the finish came very quick.
I see. So it wasn't your ideal match. Did you get any feedback?
It's interesting because I don't know what it is. Maybe people just don't like to tell me that like I do a horrible job. I don't know. But like I asked a few people and they were like, no, it was good. Like you did good. Like that was good. Like that was what everyone said was like, that was great. The music didn't work when I came out. So I still did my dance. I still did my entrance, and everyone was like, yeah, I wish the music would have worked. Like your interest would have been amazing with it. And I'm like, thank you, but yeah, that was about it. That was the feedback I got. Serena Deebs was at my tryout. And, when you have to run around to the different 5 rings and do different things in it, different drills and stuff. And she was like, you're really solid in sound. Like, her feedback was great. Even I run the ropes a little different than most people do. I run it kind of like people like to call it a ballerina. However, Brookside was telling me, he's like, I like the way you run the ropes. It goes with your character 100%. He's like, I love it. And it's original and unique and no one runs them like you do. He's like, I wouldn't change it if I was you. I'm like, oh, thank you. So I did get that feedback from Brookside because I was telling him, I'm like, man, I just, I feel like I need to like change like the way I run. People always tell me I run goofy. And he was like, I love it. He's like, don't change it. So there was that. But and they did tell me that I killed it on my promo. I made everyone cry.
Well, you seem like you'd be a pretty good promo from the way you're talking to us today. There was a fan on here. I lost the question now. They asked it earlier that wanted to know about your match with Rachel Ellering. They said that something looked unusual in a match you had with Rachel Ellering. Was
really the Wrestle Circus match? God, go figure, right? Yeah, like duh. It looked unusual. But it happened. It happened so many years ago and it's over with. It doesn't define me, but it happened. It was like, what the fuck ever. But it's interesting because on Raw, Bayley and Sasha had the very same match on Raw. And then they went to therapy after. So yeah, I mean, she's moved on. She's gone to Japan after that. She got signed to WWE. She's out of WWE now. There's just, I've been on AEW. I've had other opportunities. I've been on Impact. Like, it was a match.
All right, I might have to look that one up if it's online.
Oh, I'm shocked you haven't seen it. The whole world has seen it.
Wrestle Circus, they're no longer in business, right?
They're not. I think they went under that December, or they had one more show and then they went under, and then they came back for one show and then they closed their doors forever.
Texas Wrestling Review wants to know who brings out the best in you. I guess it's not Rachel Ellering.
I think it's opponents that understand that they need to check their egos at the door. And when you understand that and you understand the match is a dance, and yes, you can dance alone, but dancing with somebody else and with a partner looks so much better and so much more crisp when you guys work together and realize it's a team effort. That's who brings out the best in me.
Steve wants to know if you've ever wrestled in Brazil and what languages do you speak?
Have I ever competed or been to Brazil? Well, I was born in Niterói, Rio de Janeiro, Brasil. A minha família é de Gramada, Porto Alegre, Manaus e Cabo Frio, Arraial do Cabo, Búzios. Yeah. So, também é da Itália, né? Eu tenho italiano no meu sangue também. Okay, so I can understand Italian because my family is from northern and southern Italy. And I speak Portuguese fluently. I can read and write it. I can translate it just fine. I still have family all over Brazil. I've been to Brazil multiple times. I'm going back to Brazil in January. So I will be there. And I can speak some French. I can understand French. I used to speak Japanese really well. I just know a few words now. I can't really understand it that much. I understand Spanish and I can speak a little bit of Spanish.
Wow, that's impressive. Well, they say if you can speak a lot of languages, it's a good sign of intelligence. So you must be very smart.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of that has left my brain though from getting all those headshots, you know.
Well, I hope you're joking about that. It's dangerous. You've also wrestled in Mexico, haven't you? Could you tell us about your experience wrestling there?
I love Mexico. People always ask me, where's your favorite place to wrestle? Or the best fans, right? And I think I mean, my opinion, it's Mexico by far. They know their role. They know what they're supposed to do, but not just what they're supposed to do. They genuinely enjoy it. They love it in and out. They don't try to be smart. They don't try to break it down. They don't care. Like, they enjoy the performances. They enjoy the good and the bad. They love it. Like, absolutely love it. And they build arenas for wrestling, for Lucha Libre, right? The birthplace of Lucha Libre is Monterrey, Mexico. CMLL is the oldest registered wrestling company in the world. I believe it was 1934. But they are amazing, great talent. They start training at like the youngest ages, right? Like 7, 6, 5. Like, they are just great, very humble, passionate people. I love their food. They're Latin, so it definitely does remind me of Brazil a lot when it comes to that. People are always like, are you afraid that it's like dangerous and stuff? And Brazil is more dangerous than Mexico is. So I go to Mexico and I'm like, whatever. It's like fine, right? I'll walk around by myself, like never had anything that bad happened to me. I did one time. I was traveling alone on a bus from San Luis Potosi to Monterrey, Mexico, and the bus got pulled over in the middle of the night, and they took all the guys out of it, and then they asked all the girls to lift up their shirts. I think they were looking for drugs, right? And they patted everyone down, but like, It was crazy. That was like the craziest thing. Also, the last time I drove anywhere alone, on a bus alone. So, but it was fun. We all had fun. It's a good time. Wrestling in Mexico is amazing. Training in Mexico is amazing. I would highly recommend for anyone getting into wrestling to go outside your comfort zone and train and wrestle at as many different places, different countries you possibly can.
As far as when they pulled you over to rob the bus, was it
I
just?
don't know if they robbed it, but I think they were looking for drugs.
Oh, okay. So it was. It wasn't the cops. It was actual bad guys, right?
I don't know who it was. When they talk
Yeah.
really fast in Spanish, I can't understand what they're saying.
Scary stuff. Carlos Gambino wants to know if you could wrestle any past wrestler. Who would it be?
Any past wrestler, Cutie Suzuki would be amazing. She's a Japanese wrestler. She did appear on WCW. Um, she's I love her. She's great.
Now you already said you're not really into MMA, but Eric's asking if you ever studied Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I don't even know.
Capoeira.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, on the capoeira, right? So when I was younger, we used to do capoeira. I'm very athletic, what people like to say. Uh, I did take a little bit of gymnastics when I was younger, but I think the capoeira kind of helped me out a lot. Um, so yeah, I know a little bit of capoeira.
Very good. Josh wants to know if you'd ever wrestle for our company up here, Great North Wrestling in Canada.
Absolutely will. No problem. I actually, when I was younger and I first moved to America, I wanted to move to Canada because I loved how peaceful and serene the countryside looked with the snow.
Yes, it's good to visit, but the snow can get annoying when you have to live in it. Now, you also wrestled in Japan. Could you tell us about your experience over there?
So the wrestling was great, right? It was a little weird because I went out there right after the whole drama with like Tessa Blanchard and La Buzadora went down. So I think we were the Gaijins that came immediately after that whole drama happened. But as soon as we got into the house, it was like, that's all we heard about. It was like, you can't do this, and this, and this because of this and this and this that happened. So there was a lot of rules, and we weren't allowed to go to any other promotion to watch any other wrestling. Even though we did go and watch New Japan one time, and I think we all got in trouble for that. Even though they don't have women's wrestling, and Stardom now is part of New Japan, right? So like it was really weird. But other than that, like I loved the food. The people were great. I wish we would have got trained like a lot more rigorously at Stardom. I feel like because Io Shirai was having her tryout for WWE and Kairi Hojo was also in the midst of getting signed with WWE, it kind of, they were gone a lot and they were the main trainers there. So it was kind of like, oh, we're not training today because they're out of town, or we're not training today because of this. So, but the matches were great. The fans were great. They took really good care of us. It was a lot of fun. Getting the visa was not, but other than that, it was fun.
Now, you've had the stem cell treatment on, I think, your ACL. Rob Van Dam has had it. I think Brian Cage has had it. Could you tell us a bit about this new treatment? I know Dan Severn from the UFC has also had it, but I'm curious to know if it actually works.
Yeah. So when I got the news for my knee, it was that my ACL was still halfway attached and my meniscal was torn. That was the news, right? That's what they said they saw in the MRI. And I said, okay, cool. So I had a friend tell me about stem cell. And I could either do what Brian Cage did. He went out of the country to get his done. I am not that rich. I did not have the means to go out of the country. So I did it in the US. And in the US, because they're not allowed to use fetuses and stuff like that, they have to take your bone marrow and then they spin it. And anyone that has ever donated bone marrow knows how much it hurts. Well, I did not. I've never donated bone marrow. I had no idea how much it hurts. So what they do is they give you like a local, right? And you are so doped up, you can't feel anything. And then they start drilling into your hip and you can't feel anything until they hit the bone. But when they hit the bone, they can't stop. Like, it hurts because they can't numb your bone unless they get an anesthesiologist in there, and they don't have that, right? So you can't, it looks like one of those, when you're asleep and you wake up, but you're having like sleep paralysis. That's what it's called. And you're like terrified, right? So imagine that, but in pain. So you can't move, you can't do anything, and the pain is excruciating. So I did that. But as soon as they're done taking that out of you, it doesn't hurt anymore. So then they put it in my knee, and then come to find out that my kneecap is actually shattered. So then I really have to have surgery at this point. And I wish I would have just had surgery to begin with, and I could have skipped over all this pain and recovered really fast. So then I go in and have my knee surgery. And when I come back out, there's a reason why I'm telling you the story. Then I come back out and the doctor tells me, okay, so you had 3 treatments of the stem cell. And I'm like, yes, I did. And it was excruciating every time they did it, you guys. So then I was like, yes, I did. And they're like, well, remember how we told you your meniscal was torn? And I'm like, yeah, you guys told me I had like bucket handle tears, right? They look like little scoops. And he's like, well, your meniscal pad is completely healed, right? We just had to slide it back in place because it was slid out of place completely. But your meniscal pad has no tears in it at all. And I'm like, okay, but the ACL, was partially torn. They're like, no, it was fully torn. So here's the thing with stem cell. If you have fully torn ligaments, they have not figured out a way to tell the stem cells where to exactly go and what to heal. It's a crap shot. And they tell you that when you do it. They tell you, it's 50-50. It's either going to work or not. It did heal my meniscal pad, though, completely. But it didn't heal. My ACL was completely torn. It was wrapped around my kneecap. So there was no way it was going to heal that. But it did heal my meniscal. So yes and no. It is super expensive. I don't know how much it is out of the country, but in the country, it is super expensive and it is very painful.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad to know you seem to be recovered now from those injuries.
Yes, I am.
Sean Shamrock wants to know if you'd ever turn heel.
So AEW only had me as a heel. They were like, just be a bitch. I'm like, oh, thanks. I'm like, but I'm not that mean to people. They're like, right. But, just pretend like they like slept with, your boyfriend or your husband. They killed like a kid or, they killed your mom and like, just be mean. I'm like, oh, okay. So yes, I have. But I'm just me most of the time, right?
Krilling876 says, is he out of line for asking why you have a coat on?
Because it is like 33 degrees here in Utah. It is pretty cold, and my mom likes to open the windows.
I see. So are you an official U.S. citizen now?
I am. I became a U.S. citizen 7 years ago. So it was quite expensive, very expensive, but I did it all on my own. I didn't marry anyone for it, didn't date anyone, for it. Like I did it on my own.
Wow. So, like, when you say it's super expensive, is that just applying for the papers and so forth, or
Mhm.
where does the cost
So
come in?
yeah, I did it on my own. So first you have to get a visa, right, to come to America, whether it's a tourist visa, student visa, or a J1 visa, right, or an H visa. They have two different kinds of work visas. So my mom came to America when I was young, and she had a student visa, and she had to get the school to sign some documents saying that she could bring her kids over. And so they signed those documents for my mom, and they brought us over. So there was four of us, my grandmother and my mother, and I was just on a tourist visa for a really long time. I was going to Disneyland for about 10 years, you guys. Yeah. Great. So we cleaned houses. My mom went to medical school. She's a doctor now. But yeah, she was always very proud. So like we cleaned houses. Every time we had to renew a visa, it's super expensive. Like they're a couple of $100. And when you have four kids and have to pay for all four kids for those visas, it adds up. It's crazy, right? Especially for a single parent going through medical school. Like it's nuts. And then when my mom got her doctorate, she got us each a green card right when we turned 18. She said she'd pay for our green cards. They were about $2,500 each. And then after that, she said it's up to you guys to get your regular to get your citizenship. So to renew your green card at the time, I think now they're called the alien cards, but back then they were called green cards and they were green. To renew it was like $500, and I renewed it twice. But you have to live in the United States for 10 years after you get your green card to apply for a citizenship, right? And then they changed the law halfway in between it, so I didn't have to wait the full 10 years. But it was $3,000
Wow.
to get my citizenship. That's why I'm like, where the hell is all this money going? Do you know that there is a line, despite what everyone says about the United States, there is a line for immigrants from other countries to move here. Like, yes, does the US have some shitty aspects about it? Absolutely. But have you been to some of these third world countries? Like, they're worse. You know? I mean, every mayor governor of Rio de Janeiro goes to jail, him and his wife, for stealing the money from the people and not doing improvements. Brazil is pretty much ran by whoever has the most money. You know, it's crazy. It's nuts. Like, yeah, it's totally crazy. Like every country, even Japan, I learned this while I was in Japan. Japan is male dominated. Women are pretty much looked at as second class citizens there. And I mean, America is the only one that gets bullshit for, oh, women's rights, women's rights. Great. Well, look at Japan. Look at Brazil. Look at all these other countries, that have all these issues. Like, I love America. I would never want to live anywhere else except for here, maybe Canada, but like here for sure. Like, I definitely have no problem paying what I paid to become a citizen here.
Very interesting. I hope to be a citizen there one day as well, so I can leave when it gets cold, because the winters are brutal. So as far as your Twitch, you were telling me earlier you stream on Twitch very often. We just got on Twitch at Great North Wrestling. Could you tell us about your streams, and for people that don't know what Twitch is, maybe explain a little bit what it is?
Yeah, so Twitch started off as a gaming platform, right? So people could learn how to play video games or see how to win certain video games. That's how it started. It was a gaming community. You guys have taxes because you guys have free healthcare, and that's where all those taxes go to. As far as I'm concerned, what people have told me. It's all hearsay, though. However, so Twitch started off as that. And then it turned into like different people coming on there and chatting and venting about themselves. And then they have these people coming on there and they'll eat food and people want to watch them eat food. And like, they'll tell you like the distinct flavors or how to make stuff or how to do that. It turned into kind of an interactive YouTube, right? And now what I do on there, Zicky Dice is one of my great friends. He has an amazing Twitch stream, right? Marty the Moth Casaus is also one of my friends, and he lives down the street from me. He has an amazing Twitch stream also. So both of them got together and they said, Christi, you work out every single day and you have a full-blown gym at your place. Why don't you stream? You can show people your workouts, you can show people your home workouts, and you can also connect with your fans. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. So I do workouts in the morning and I meditate immediately after, because I believe you need to not only work on your physical aspect, but you should also work mentally, right? It's a mind and body connection you need to have in everything. And I think a lot of people, and over the years, mental health has been a very taboo subject. No one wants to talk about it, but it's very relevant in everything and anything that we do, you know. And I always tell people, you can get on my stream, you can vent, we can talk about whatever. I'm still going to be working out, but you know, there's that. And I also like show wrestling, so we'll watch like very old school wrestling, like super old school wrestling on my Twitch stream on Sunday nights is when I do that. So every morning I do a workout meditation, and then on Sunday nights I do the wrestling stream. You know, you can request to watch certain wrestling matches, but yeah, we do like wrestling matches from the 1930s, like women's matches and stuff. And then we do also, like, I play Among Us a lot, so I'll stream that. And my Phasmo isn't working. I don't know why. Phasmophobia, if you guys know what that is. I don't know why. I have King Stuggy's gonna help me if you guys follow me on Twitch or do follow Zicky Dice or Marty the Moth Casaus. You guys know who some of these people are. He has told me that he's going to help me figure out my Phasmo, why it isn't working. But I just got done playing Dead by Daylight. It is amazing. You guys that just joined Twitch need to download this game on Steam. You need to play it with your followers. Like, it is like Among Us, but it's spookier. Like, there's still one killer, and everyone else tries to do tasks like Among Us, but this killer is running around and trying to kill you while you do your tasks. So it's kind of like it's like what's it called? What's that really like zombie apocalypse TV show that was on? It's help me out. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. It was like a zombie movie, you know, everyone dies. Well, not everyone. There's a few people in it and they run around and they got to kill the zombies and they try to rebuild life as they know it, but the zombies keep attacking them. There's different cliques or clans of them. So it's like that. That's what it reminds me of. Walking Dead. Sorry, that's what it's called. So it reminds me of Walking Dead, but yeah, there's like these zombies that like run around, and yes, Matt, Walking Dead. These zombies that run around, or one zombie that runs around and tries to kill you, but now they just created a brand new one, and she can throw these baby zombies at you. So now you have to try to fix all these things and stay alive by daylight so the zombies all go away. But yeah.
Wow, very interesting. We're gonna have to check you out on Twitch. There's a lot of fans on here saying they're gonna follow you. What's your handle on there?
It is Christi_Jaynes. So Christ with an I at the end of it, _JAYNES.
And how do people make money on Twitch? Is it just fans donating? Because we hear this whole controversy going on right now with WWE wrestlers being banned from Twitch.
So yeah, people, you know, if they like the content, they'll follow you or they'll subscribe to your channel. There's different interactive things we do. So like when we game, I have to get a second screen to be able to do this. But like when we game, it's like, hey, they're called biddies, the money on there. 1 biddy is 1 penny. It's 1 cent, right? So they're called biddies, and it's like, oh, should I go to the right or should I go to the left? Pay me 50 biddies and you get to choose which way I go. And somebody will give you 50 biddies and you'll go to the right or you'll go to the left, right? So on my workout stream, I have a wheel, and for 300 biddies, you can spin that wheel. You can win a free t-shirt, an 8x10. You can have me do extra squats, lunges, sit-ups, push-ups. I can do like my Brazilian samba dance. I can do the running man. There's a bunch of different things you can do to interact with people. And then for 1,000 biddies, I will eat these bean boozled jelly beans. This is the big thing right now. Somebody bought this for me because they saw me on a 12-hour Halloween interactive stream. And I ate, every time I eat these, I throw up. This is my Achilles heel. So they have the good jelly beans, right? And then they have the nasty jelly beans. So one of them would be, and they look identical. So you don't know what you're getting. It's like a crap shop, right? So one of them is stink bug, or you could get toasted marshmallow, rotten egg, or buttered popcorn. Barf, peach, booger, juicy pear, stinky socks, tutti frutti, dead fish, strawberry banana, spoiled milk, coconut, canned dog food, chocolate pudding, toothpaste, berry blue, dirty dishwater, and birthday cake. And so they all have like partners that they like. See, they kind of match it. That's the toothpaste. That's berry blue. So this is canned dog food. This is chocolate pudding. Like they look identical, so you don't know which one you're going to get. And this one is the dumpster one. So like you go up and then you push down and it pops open, and then there's the jelly beans, right? You eat. But I'm holding this away from my face because it smells like crap. But anyways, as soon as I got this, I did a stream 2 days ago. You guys can go back and watch it. I got paid 3,000 biddies. So I had to eat 3 of them consecutively. And I threw up so much. And then I had to do box jumps after them. 50 box jumps. It was rough. It was very, very rough. So like there's different ways you guys can get it, but it is very much like fan interactive. Like you have to interact with your fans or you're just not going to make money on it.
I see. And speaking of food, Krilling 876, I don't know if you can read that.
Yeah, Fogo de Chão. I've eaten there in Austin, Texas. It's okay. It's fine. I prefer, if you're in Texas, I prefer Estancia Grill. That one's legit. It is legit. Estancia Grill is it in Texas.
I'm going to ask you too many more questions here, but Angelina Ramon wants to know if you're a collector of rare video games.
So as a family, we are, but my younger brother keeps them at his house, and I have posted it on Twitter and on Instagram. We have every single Nintendo video game ever made, and we still have our original Nintendo gaming device, and it still works. But we even have, the only one we don't have is one, I think it's $12,000. And it's gold, or no, it's $1 million now, I think. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it's gold. And the only way you could get it was if you had to play a video game. Nintendo did this competition at a local college, and you had to win the competition to buy the game. And they only sold 10 of them, I believe. But that's the only game we do not have. And I know a lot of you avid game players, especially that follow Nintendo, because there is a Nintendo World opening in Japan. I don't know if everyone's on that. I'm like, I'm so excited. I want to go. So yeah, NES Bible Adventures. I have every game. So we have everything. I have a video of it actually up on my Instagram, which is Christi Jaynes, Christ with an I at the end of it, Jaynes. I have a whole video of every single game, right? And then we not only have every game, but we have them open too. So we have them boxed and we have them open, so we can play them if we can. And then I also have it on my Twitter, which my Twitter is at Christi Jaynes, Christ with an I, Jaynes. I try to keep all my stuff very like streamlined. Yeah, we don't have PS3 or PS4. We did though just start doing, you guys remember Game Boy? The old Game Boys? We did just start collecting those. So yeah.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to only ask one more fan question here before we wrap up. Alan wants to know if you've ever wrestled Chris Baker or Britt Baker, sorry.
No, I have never wrestled Britt Baker, ever.
There's a follow-up question here to Britt Baker from Jackalope Music, who tips $10. He wants to know your thoughts on Britt Baker's waiting room in AEW.
I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I have no thoughts on it. So, and then anyone I want to wrestle yes, there are a lot of people I want to wrestle transgender. One of them being wow, I actually have a list. Should I read it? Should I just read my list?
If you have the time, the fans I'm sure will want to hear it.
I have time. That's all I have. I am here for you guys. Okay, so let's see. Boom. Here's my list. So Angelico being number one, right? But I don't know if I'll ever be able to wrestle him, but Angelico is amazing. He's my number one there. Marty the Moth, Black Taurus, Jay Sirius, Gino, Jonathan, Mr. Iguana, Zicky Dice, Penta. I've never wrestled Penta. I would love to wrestle Penta. So yeah, those are about, that's them. Do you like my list? I'm like, no, that's a list. Do you have a Retron to play them in HD? No, I don't.
You're very organized with that list.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll add more people to it as the years go by, but for right now, that is my list. But yeah, the number one person I want to wrestle is Angelico. Like, yeah, but I don't think I will be able to. He's signed to a very long contract.
There's a couple of people in the comments that are saying, what about Nyla Rose and Sunny Kiss?
Yeah, but Nyla Rose is a woman, and the question was a guy, right? Sunny Kiss, like, I would just feel bad because, like, I'd get my ass kicked. But other than that, you know.
Definitely. And where can people follow you on your other social media other than Twitch if they want to look you up?
So you guys can follow me. Again, it's just my name, Christi Jaynes, on Instagram, on Twitter. My Facebook is a bottomless pit. So please, you can find out every time I stream on my Twitter, and my Instagram is all about my wrestling. So those are the two platforms you guys can follow me on. I do have Cameo if you guys would like to request, you know, a birthday song or just a hey, how you doing, or have any questions, jump on that Cameo. Again, it's Christi Jaynes. I do have a big cartel. You can get t-shirts, 8x10s, pins. Again, it's Christi Jaynes. Like, I try to keep it very simple, very streamlined. I do have a website. However, it is locked up and in litigation because my name, Christi Jaynes, is trademarked, just so you guys know. So yeah, it's actually trademarked by me, and somebody else tried to use it. So right now, my website is locked up in litigation. So go to all those other websites.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully we can have you back sometime because it seems like the fans have really liked you, and I'm looking forward to meeting you on December 12th in Greenville, Texas.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, do you have anything to say about that event because that's the whole reason why we're doing this interview for SWE Fury.
Oh, I thought it was just because you liked me. Okay, I see.
Well, I did. There is actually your
see.
Miranda Gordy is on this channel. SWE Fury is sharing some content with me, and I was very impressed with that match. And you got screwed in that match by Vert Vixen. You could be the SWE champion right now if it wasn't for that.
You know what? All I have to say is on December 12th, I am going to stop Vert Vixen dead in her tracks. Like 100%. The games she plays are dirty. Like, who plays games like that? Like, I don't cheat in my games. I don't have cheat codes. I don't do any of that. And Vert, that's all she knows how to play by is that. And she just I work hard for my opportunities, and she feels like she doesn't have to because there's always a way around it. Not anymore. On December 12th, Vert Vixen is about to be Control-Alt-Deleted. I think that's how you say it.
I think it is too, and I'll let you wrap this interview up however you want with your final thought here. Thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for being on here, for joining us. If you are in Texas, if not, please download that SWE Fury app. You guys can get all the new streams on there. You guys can also check out everyone that is on their roster. Follow me on all my social media platforms, Christi Jaynes, and thank you guys so much.